Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today we're talking about, or the topic is over the threshold of our resistance. So when we step beyond our resistance, we can step into our dreams and create a whole new trajectory for our lives at any given moment. And we're going to be talking about that. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, good morning, Rosalind. How wonderful to start the day with you. Welcome. It's great to have you here and everybody else who's joining us. And we're talking about over the threshold of our resistance. So what happens for so many of us, myself included, is that we get caught up in the current of our lives, just this continuity that essentially puts blinders on us so that we don't entertain other possibilities. And I can understand where there's sort of a survival factor to that in its way, given that we need to focus our attention to accomplish the things that we're accomplishing in our lives. However, what happens is we often end up dreaming dreams that we never really entertain, or maybe we don't even allow ourselves the luxury of dreaming those dreams at all. And we just get caught up in the current, and life just sort of pulls us along, or we flow along with it without ever getting a bird's eye view of what the life is that we're creating. And it's very different to be actively engaged in creating life from just allowing life to unfold. I think that there's, maybe those are two, I don't mean to be making a polarity, but I think that there's a collaboration possibility between allowing life to unfold and creating life. That we can be active participants rather than just sort of going numb or unconscious to the content of our lives. We can get so caught up in the doing of our lives that we don't, it becomes sort of a micro focus, and we can't see the different choice points, the different trajectories that might be available to us. And so this conversation is coming up because I'm talking or looking at and actually choosing to engage in a long-standing dream of mine. I have been I'm using my example just so maybe you can apply it in your life for what your dreams are. But for years and years and years, I've dreamt of RV life, and I've been looking at camper vans for forever, and even designing one. And the thing is that I've never spent time in an RV or a camper van. So, here I have this long-standing dream. I've been trying to move toward that, and I never really actually tested the dream. And so I have made arrangements to rent a camper van and go on a trip to a place that I have been thinking is a place that I want to live. So I also want to be exploring that place more deeply to see if it really truly resonates for me, and making sort of laying the ground or doing the research for potential life decisions, which are expressions of very, very long-standing dreams. And what I've noticed, why we're talking about stepping over the threshold of resistance, is, sometimes it feels like you need a pry bar to get yourself out of the regular flow of life. And as I was entertaining actually doing this, which I am doing, I have set it up, and I'm leaving for this adventure on Monday, or Tuesday actually. But I'm prepping for it on Monday. Is that there's a lot of resistance to overcome. I notice, like, this is something that's been a dearly held dream, and I'm saying this because I think that you may experience something similar, is that in the face of actually making the dream a reality, or stepping into action in relationship to that dream or vision, what I notice for myself is there's a lot of nervousness, hesitation. You could even say fear, maybe that the dream is going to pan out to be a disaster, in which case then that dream that I've held, it just sort of dissolves. That's one part of it. And also, like, how I have to really lift myself out of the status quo of my life in order to make this thing a reality, or at least explore the reality of it. And so noticing this anticipation, there's an anticipation, excitement, and also fear, or nervousness, about anxiety about doing it, like, because it's completely unknown. I noticed that it's taking a persistent reset. It's taking bringing myself back to center again and again, and saying, yes, I'm going to do this. And noticing the resistance, the resistance that's there, saying, maybe you just want to keep things the status quo. Maybe you just want to continue to dream about this. The thing is that when you have the opportunity to fulfill on a dream, not choosing not to kind of makes that dream dissolve. And it's a point where you confront yourself to say, well, okay, am I BSing myself about this whole thing, or am I for real? Is it a for real dream? Is it a for real thing that I'm committed to, or do I just want to dream it rather than manifest it? So the resistance that I'm talking about is the resistance that we face in creating transformation and change for ourselves. And it shows up in all different ways. I see it showing up with clients as they come to sessions. It's so funny because they know that there's going to be change that occurs, and part of them just digs in their heels and tries to put on the brakes, even though they show up. Sometimes they don't even show up. But, it's like, are we going to show up for what we're committed to? And this isn't showing up for accountability from other people. I'm talking about showing up for ourselves. Are we going to show up for ourselves? What does it take to go beyond, to step beyond the threshold of that resistance into the things that are pulling on our heart and soul? My thinking is that if we have dreams and hopes for ourselves, for our lives, for what we're creating, that don't have any kind of, I'll call it resistance or trepidation or some kind of pull that we need to get beyond. If it doesn't have that, my thinking is that maybe we're not stepping far enough. Like there's an exhilaration in this nervousness. We can call it anxiety, we can call it fear, we can call it resistance, but it's stepping, the act of stepping beyond our comfort zone a little bit, at least a little bit, like to go push the limits of our comfort zone in order to move into something that we care a lot about. I think that it has an element of breaking through to it. We experience that breaking through. And there's something incredibly exhilarating and liberating about that. I mean, even in the face of the anxiety and all the stories that we'll tell ourselves to limit ourselves, to step beyond that or step into that, to embrace that, and to say yes and instead of yeah but, like to say, well, yeah, I wanted that, but to step into it and say yes and I'm going to embrace it. So it's not that following our heart and soul is effortless. It's not that it's always easy, because we have these parts of ourselves that are like the crabs in the bucket that are trying to stop the other crabs from climbing out. We do that to ourselves, like, let's just keep the status quo. Let's just not rock the boat, right? Because you start rocking the boat, who knows what's going to happen? You might end up in the water, and then what? And if you do end up in the water, maybe that's a good thing, although there could be sharks in the water, right? So we tend to impede ourselves with all these fears and concerns. I mean, we can take precautions, and do we let those considerations and concerns stop us? That's the question. And if we do, what's the cost? What's the cost? If we have the potential to make our lives as magnificent as we can dream. We truly do. And we were talking yesterday about how we really are the creators of our lives, how we have access to potentially unbounded capability and potential. And what does it take to explore that? I mean, even the exploration of that through our imagination. I don't know about you, but I have noticed that I even have resistance to that. Like, I've seen parts of me just sort of want to derail that effort, because status quo, like it's shaking up the foundations. And once you start shaking up the foundations, who knows what's going to happen? But if we can start living into the who knows as something exciting and delicious, how much more might be available to us? What can we create when we start living into potentials? So this is really interesting. I have a brilliant person in my life who is really looking at how do we step beyond our resistance and our cultural resistance. How do we step into potentials and possibilities that the general culture doesn't acknowledge or is threatened by? Because not only are we threatened by these kinds of changes, but the culture, I know that it's the them, but the culture, the amorphous crowds or the people that we interact with in life, there's a cultural tone and timbre that wants to maintain itself. And so this person was talking about activism. It was a really super powerful conversation. So they had this vision of activism, of where to take action to make a difference. While the example they gave was so brilliant, like here are all these people drowning in the river, and our job is to be taking those people out of the river, saving the people that are drowning in the river, while this person was looking upriver to say, like, here's what's happening upriver, that all these people are ending up in the water. And the people that were pulling people out of the river were busy saying, hey, you know what? This is what needs your attention. These people are drowning. Stop putting your focus over there. We need you over here to be pulling people out of the river. But the thing is that they were the people pulling the people out of the river. They were helping people, but they weren't dealing with the source issue that was having people end up in the river drowning in the first place. And the idea was to look in this different place, and there was all this resistance from the people that were saving people from drowning at the end, and they were not only resistance, but they were creating a demand for the person looking upriver to be attending to the symptom rather than the cause. Okay, there was this resistance, and the crabs in the bucket kind of thing, where we try individually, even with ourselves, but also culturally, to kind of keep things in the status quo, even when the status quo isn't serving its best purpose. And so overcoming the resistance within ourselves, overcoming the resistance of the circles in which we reside, overcoming the resistance of existing paradigms, of existing patterns. It's a big thing for us to be able to do that. And there's unbounded potential on the other side of that. And so what today's invitation is to check in with yourself regarding your dreams, your hopes, your visions, and look at what is going on as far as your willingness to take steps in the direction of the fulfillment of those dreams. Are you resisting in some way, and it can be kind of an insidious resistance. It can be a resistance that doesn't show up as resistance. It's just, it's like, well, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have the resources, I don't, whatever they can sort of show up as excuses, right? And they can be very legitimate looking excuses. But the question is, if not now, when? And so I invite you to step into the possibilities that you entertain for yourself. And to truly be looking at what might be possible for you, what those possibilities might open up for you and for the world. Because I think as we begin to make real our visions for ourselves, we can also be making real our visions for the world. That we have more momentum, more confidence, as we push our own boundaries, as we or test or like actually approach our boundaries, we can find that those boundaries are much more malleable than we had imagined, than we had believed, than we had subjected ourselves to. And new worlds can open up. And the more we experience the success of doing that, the more we experience our ability to expand and to grow and to find and experience richer fulfillment, the more brazen we can become, the more emboldened we can become in shaping the reality that we experience and expanding those bounds. So that's the invitation, is to feel into what can open up for you. Feel into what is it, what is that audacious step you can take, and allow yourself the courage, the boldness, the inspiration to take it. So when I talk about pushing the river, I don't mean ignoring the flow of life. What we're looking to do is to find our alignment with that. And with that alignment, as we truly align with the flow of our lives, what happens is that there's a momentum that then sweeps us into those new potentials rather than into the mundane throes of an unconscious life, but to actually, rather than allowing ourselves to fall into numbness and automatic kinds of behaviors, to actually come alive in life, to actually be in active collaboration and communion with life and the calling of our soul, like to allow life to pull us forward instead of just rocking through the existing currents. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please Hi, Dido. So good to have you here with us this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I invite you to please like and share and follow the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as mine. The links are in the description. And as always, it is a deep, deep privilege and pleasure and honor to have these conversations with you and explorations about what it is to be human and how we can best express our our soul's yearning for that expression in these lives that we live. So until next time, so much love to you.